This is Chris Whalen, CPA, and welcome to the Street Level Business Podcast. First, if you already have a question for me, please pause the podcast and call me on 732-673-0510. My firm specializes in business and income tax matters for businesses and families and offers the full array of services you would expect from a full-service CPA firm. As the name implies, this podcast offers advice for those of us working and living at the street level. If you look at your screen, you will see my website and phone number, both great ways to reach me. Okay, so today we have a very, very important topic. The Form W4 is being changed dramatically for 2020. So anyone who's an employee is most likely going to be asked to fill out a W4 form. You might recall a few years ago in 2018 that there was some withholding errors and problems with the new tax code. I think that this is partly meant to correct that, but in looking at it and researching it, it's made the process much more convoluted and cumbersome. And so let's get started. Let's take a look at, this is the current W4 that we have. Everyone's used to seeing this. You simply fill out your name, address, and your social. And if you look at box 3 here, you'll see single, married, or married but withhold at the higher single rate. Now, everyone's very familiar with this. You'll also see line 5, which is the total number of allowances that you're claiming. Now, everyone knows if we were single 5, for example, we'd have less withheld in the past. And if we were single 0, we'd have more withheld. Also, if you were married, you could check that box. But if you recall, there was a problem with that married box in item 3 here, because that was really meant for people where only one spouse works. So if both spouses worked, many of my clients would understand that they should have been married but withhold at the higher single rate if both of the couples working. So that's how this used to look, and it was pretty straightforward. The most important part of this is that it let us adjust what your withholding was pretty easily. So let's say you were married but withhold at the higher single rate with 2 exemptions and you needed more withheld. I could always reduce the number of exemptions to maybe get a little more withholding. Or the opposite, if I needed less withholding, I could increase my exemptions. So everyone's familiar with this, and it was a tried and true system for many, many, many years. But now, of course, they're changing it. So let's take a look at what the changes are, what the new form looks like. So here it is, the W4 form for 2020, and you're going to see, of course, your name, address, and social is here. But if you take a look at item C, it says single or married filing separately, married filing jointly, or head of household. So now our filing status is different than it used to be, and that's where the changes get much more cumbersome and complicated. So within this form, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit so everyone can see. If you look here at step 2, it talks about multiple jobs, or if your spouse works, which is a lot of couples, of course. That's more information. If you look here at item A right here, use the estimator for most accurate withholding for this step. Again, it's extra steps. They want you to go to an IRS website and put in information as if we're doing your tax return. So this is really, no one's going to use this, and no one's going to use it accurately. And that's what I'm concerned here. I'm concerned that when all is said and done, we're going to have a similar situation as we did in 2018, where we didn't have enough withholding. And so at the end of this, you're going to see my advice to avoid that. Now we have dependents here, step 3. How much money do you earn? $200,000 or less, or $400,000 or less if you're married. This is for child tax credit possibilities. So this is another thing. People aren't going to be sure what to put here. Now there's other income, not from jobs. So they want you to go and look at what your other income is, your dividends, your investments, your capital gains. Again, it's much, much more cumbersome. And as you can see, we're only down the first page. And this is about 20 times the information and work for each individual. Remember, every employee needs to do this in 2020. So let's take a look down here. This is the same form. There's a multiple jobs worksheet if you work more than one job. I don't know, not a lot of people do that during the year, but they're going to force you to fill this out. There's a deductions worksheet here. again, you would have to almost do your tax return or have a meeting with your accountant to do this form. Then there are these tables. Okay, so now let's go back up to the top and we'll take a look at the form. Now, what I'm going to do in the next slide is this is going to be my advice right now what to do, because we aren't even sure what these settings are going to do. We have no way of knowing or going to a chart after you fill this out to get an accurate withholding number. That seems crazy, but that's what's happening. So my advice is going to give you a conservative approach to this form so you can have as much withheld as possible. And then when we do your tax return, you're going to supply me with your current year-to-date pay stubs. Then we're going to look how adequate your 2020 withholding actually is. So let's take a look at the next slide. And if you need to pause it, whatever you can. Anyone who needs this form with these markups that's coming up, you're going to see it here. I have that PDF saved this way. Just send me an email at chriswhalencpa@gmail.com and I will send this to you. All right, so let's take a look, right, what I've done. I've highlighted in yellow some of the important things to look at. Again, name, address, social. Now, if you look at item C, what I've done, I don't want anyone who's married filing joint to select that choice. Never select this choice, as you see. The reason why is that it wants you to put in a lot of other information that may impact your withholding, which may make it too low. So even if you're both married and you are both working, I definitely want you to check that first box, or if you're single. So single or married, always check the top box. Now the bottom box, head of household, if you're a single person with a dependent child at home. Those are your two options. I highly recommend not checking the married filing joint box. Now let's skip down to step 2. If you remember, this is the multiple jobs or spouse works box, which wants you to do a lot of extra work. And I want you to skip this box for now and do not check this box that's on the right side of your screen. All right, let's go down to step 3. I don't want you to fill out this either. I want you to skip this section, even if you have dependent children. Step 4. If you have no other income, interest, dividends, capital gains, real estate income, you don't need to complete this section. But if you do have any of these in sizable amounts, you should call me to discuss this. Okay, then I would sign and date this and give it into your payroll department, or many of you are going to have this online. You still should have the ability to fill this out or skip certain sections. Again, I have this form in PDF form if you want to get a copy of it. Excuse me. So that's the end of this podcast with regard to the new W4. Again, I'd like you to be conservative with your settings on your new W4. And then when we do your taxes for 2019, please send me your pay stubs that are based on these new W4 settings, and I'll be able to tell you if your 2020 withholding is adequate. If not, then we have to find a way to adjust it, because with these new forms, it's not as simple as it was as I began the discussion, where we talked about exemptions going up or down in the old form. Again, if you need me, please call me on 732-673-0510. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you all have a great day.